What if the reason you are so hard on yourself has nothing to do with how hard you try, but has everything to do with what your subconscious mind learned a long time ago? Welcome to our Back to Self-Love Lexi. I'm so excited to get into this topic because we are talking about positive self-talk, as well as obviously the opposite being a harsh inner critical talk. Now, I used to absolutely hate myself, and it was the worst place to be in my own thoughts. I despised everything about myself, and I made myself very freaking clear about that. I was really disrespectful to myself, and I spoke to myself in a way that I would never actually speak to another human being. I was disgusted with myself in many ways, and I wouldn't want that for anybody, but I know many people actually deal with this. 80% of our thoughts are negative, and 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. Imagine you living in a world where it's constantly negative in your own head. That is a horrible place to be. And so many people don't realize the depth and how much your thoughts are impacting your life. So I want to run through a little exercise with you. I have seen the depths of how having negative thoughts have impacted my life, but let me just play out this exercise, okay? It's going to be like a game that we're going to do. You're a soccer player, okay? And you can either have thought A or thought B. Thought A is, if I try and miss, everybody's going to laugh. Thought B is, if I try and miss, that's okay. I can try again. If you have thought A, how likely are you going to really try and take the shot? Probably not as likely. You might pass the ball to another person instead. Versus thought B, you're gonna try, you're gonna take the shot. So many people have a negative mindset that is completely stopping them from achieving their goals because they're scared of being seen, they're scared of being judged, which is actually biologically understandable. I'm not going to get too much into it, but we survive in packs. We're social beings, right? So unfortunately, unlike technology, our brain hasn't really evolved to understand that we don't really need that support system anymore. Obviously, we need a support system, but what I'm trying to say is, back in the day, we survived in packs. We hunted in packs, we lived in packs. And if you were kicked out of the tribe, kicked out of the group, you would die. You needed that tribe, you needed that group to survive. So now, our brains still think the same way. We are social creatures. It sucks to say, because I'm very independent, I am hyper independent, I love to be alone. But I've also come to understand that you are your happiest when you're surrounded with good people. You can achieve the most when you're surrounded with good people. And I highlight good. That's a completely other video, but that's okay. And I do have some notes here, so don't mind me if I'm looking down. Okay. Most people will tell you in this space that positive self-talk comes with being your own best friend. And I agree to an extent, but I also want to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people have had no best friends or horrible relationships with best friends where it's extremely toxic. I have had a couple friendships where our entire friendship was based off of bullying each other. And so if you are somebody who's only ever experienced bullying, if I tell you to be your own best friend, that's going to be a little controversial in your head. You may not actually fully understand what that means. So that is why I bring this technique to you. And it is not be your own best friend. Unless you understand what that truly means and that resonates with you, please take that. Be your own best friend. Love yourself. Accept yourself. Spend time with yourself. Love yourself in all the self-love languages. That's great. But if you are anything like me who has had toxic friendships, toxic experiences in relationships, you might not fully grasp the concept of being your own best friend. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to look at the notes I created here. Your nervous system, especially with friends, because we are such social creatures, if you have been hurt in the past, your nervous system is going to take that and run with it. Again, it is survival. It is survival for us to be in groups. So if you had a best friend who maybe abandoned you, now you're going to have this huge abandonment wound, and maybe that will manifest as you people pleasing and you being unable to set boundaries because you don't want your boundaries to push another person away. That is just one example of how that could happen. So your nervous system has been wired to reject kindness directed at yourself. Crazy. Especially if you were in a companionship or friendship where the entire basis of it was making fun of each other. You might think it's funny in the moment, but deep down, at least for me, it stung. It really hurt when it would repeatedly kind of hit me in the same spot over and over, even as a joke. I'm a firm believer that jokes are never fully jokes. They always have a little bit of truth mixed in them. So, yeah. So I'm going to show you guys techniques and 4 steps on how to actually heal the harsh inner critic and introduce the positive self-talk, okay? First one, create separation from the voice. A lot of the times our inner child, I stepped a little ahead. Our harsh inner critic is actually the voice of either our inner child or a parent. You'll notice a lot of the times that when you are saying things like, I'm not enough, I'm not loved, people are judging me, it's actually not your voice. It is the voice of a parent or a caretaker, teacher, any of those. So when that voice, that inner critical voice comes up, I want you to identify it and identify where it is, where it comes from. This might seem a little confusing, so I kind of do want to talk about this a little more, just a little more in depth for you guys so you fully understand. For example, let's say now I am 20 years old. Let's say that I have a thought of, oh my gosh, what if he's going to abandon me? That is not my current thought. That is my thought from my 6-year-old self who's feeling abandoned because my dad abandoned me. So in this very moment, I'm going to jump ahead a few steps, but in this very moment, when I'm feeling that, processing it, I'm not going to act like myself. Because the funny thing is, trauma actually brings out the age that you've experienced the trauma in. And so if I'm having a moment where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be abandoned, I may not act in a rational way or the way I would act now. I'm going to act as that 6-year-old that was abandoned. And she would probably call him a bunch of times, check on him a bunch of times, stalk his location, check his profile, make sure that we're okay, need constant reassurance, cry myself to sleep, overthink, all of these things. Now, obviously, I wouldn't do that because I have a healed relationship with myself. But in those moments, it's not me. It's my 6-year-old child coming out. So you have to understand what's happening there. Okay? So create separation from the voice. I remember when I was younger and I was in therapy, I would have really, really bad thoughts. And my therapist said, there's green thoughts, yellow thoughts, and red thoughts. Red thoughts are not your thoughts. Those thoughts are the thoughts of fear. I can't do this, but what if they judge me? What if I fail? Yellow thoughts are like cautionary thoughts. They're not necessarily good or bad. They're just cautionary. Should I wear this out? Da-da-da-da. Kind of thing. And green thoughts are good thoughts, and we want to keep these thoughts. We want to focus on the green thoughts. That's just like a little helpful tip if anybody needs that, because I know as a little child that definitely helped me. So yeah, create separation from the voice. Ask whose voice this actually is. Then, this is the step that people miss out on. And I wanted to reframe from, be your own best friend. Again, completely why I explained it in the beginning. Speak to yourself like you're speaking to your inner child. Yep, I said it. Speak to yourself like you are speaking to your inner child. A lot of us, I grew up with parents who were not really emotionally available. They didn't understand mental health. They didn't understand anything except, let's keep her fed, let's keep her happy, because that's what they were taught. Talk to yourself like you're speaking to your inner child, because you literally are at all times. I promise you. It may not, obviously you're a girl. You've gone through different experiences. You have had new opportunities, might be in a relationship, had a kid, have a mortgage, have a house. but you are still always with your inner child. Your inner child is with you throughout your life. So that is my technique. I want to give a quick example of how I implemented this in my life when I was learning how to speak super positively about myself. Now, I was on my way to my G test and I was driving in my mom's car. My mom was super gracious and lent me her car when I was doing my G test because I had been driving for years with the same car, so it just would make me a lot more comfortable during the test. I, for some reason, was super anxious when I was driving to the G test. I kept thinking, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if my mom gets mad at me? What if I have to retake it and I can't schedule it properly? So many things were going through my head. And this wasn't really normal for me. So at the time, I had been a super huge overthinker previously, but this was probably about, I'd say like around a year ago. At this time, I've been on my self-love journey for quite a while. So again, it is not normal for me a year ago. And I just start to like be aware of these thoughts coming in. I hadn't yet stopped them because I wanted to just be aware of them, what was going on. And I started to notice this fear come up really, really strong. A lot of the times your emotions are connected to your body. So when you have a certain emotion, it actually will signal something in your body. For example, anxiety, heart pulsing. You might get sweaty. You might start shaking. Anger, you might start clenching your fist or clenching your jaw. A lot of the times, intense emotions will start to manifest in physical experiences in your body. So for myself, I started to notice that my heart started racing. I started to notice that my stomach felt like I had a pit in it, right? So I'm just becoming aware of my thoughts, feeling my bodily sensations. And something happened where it wasn't my thought. It was like, this is gonna sound funny. I got like a little cringe before I'm gonna say this. It was like, what if mommy's mad at me? Like, literally, like that voice came up in my thoughts. And that's when I realized, okay, this is my inner child coming out right now. And in those moments, we have those experiences a lot, but we aren't actually aware of those coming up. In that moment, I realized I can take this one of two ways. I can further the inner child wound that I have by completely ignoring her and shutting her down, or I can bring her love. And that is exactly what I did. In the car, driving to my G test, at the point of tears, filled with anxiety, I started to repeat to myself, 1, you are safe. Because the thing is, when we are rewiring our subconscious mind, we need to create safety within ourselves to be able to accept it. Because if not, we are going to be solely focused on survival. And unfortunately, survival doesn't necessarily equal love. Survival equals survival. And in that moment, survival meant safety. And for me, I had to create that safety to be able to get to a point where I could tell my inner child, you're loved. I hope that made sense. So I'm driving and I just start to repeat to myself, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And there's countless ways you can do this. My favorite personal way to make sure that I know that I'm safe is to hug myself. Another way you can do this is look around. Look at your surroundings. Are you being chased by a bear? Is anybody going to kill you right now? No. Another way is being in the present moment through breathing. Breathing is a huge, incredible way to anchor yourself grounded in the present moment. So I'm kind of breathing, telling myself, you're safe. You're safe. You're safe. And when I get to a point where I'm no longer crying or hyperventilating, I start to repeat myself. You're going to do great on this G test. Like, I believe in you. And that's when the positive self-talk comes in. Girl, I believe in you. You are so good at driving. You're going to do incredible. And this is where another deep, compassionate part that I had never done before started to come up. And I started to say to myself, even if you fail, I will still love you. Even if you mess up, I'm still going to love you unconditionally. And when I said those words to myself, I started crying so hard because I never really felt unconditionally loved. Not to say that I wasn't, because my mom loves me unconditionally, but knowing it and feeling it are two different things. I never fully felt unconditionally loved. Not only that, I never felt unconditionally loved within myself. I had always given myself this conditional love where if I produced something If I achieved a goal, then I would give myself love. But if I failed, I was very harsh on myself. So that was the first time I had ever shown myself unconditional love with my words, giving myself that safety and that compassion. And that was a year ago, and I still remember it, and I'm like starting to get a little teary-eyed because I just remember the moment of how healing that felt for me, and it truly changed and impacted the rest of my life. That's why I wanted to share this video, because loving yourself like that will truly change the trajectory of your life. When I started to love myself, I started to respect myself. And the way I respected myself showed up externally, not only just internally, but externally. I started to generate these opportunities because my harsh inner critic was silent, and I had this positive self-talk of, yes, you can do it, and even if you don't, I'm gonna love you anyways. And I started to try things. I started to put myself out there, and I never had done that before because I was so scared. That's what that does. I'm just gonna get my notes here. I literally changed my life just through changing my own thoughts and how I speak to myself, and that's why I'm so freaking passionate about sharing this with you. Now I want you to access this energy. That is your homework. I want you to access your inner child. I'm just a warning, it's going to be a trip. I have cried, laughed, screamed, hugged myself because of accessing my inner child. Because the thing is, you need to know, your inner child's always there. Again, we are programmed subconsciously from the age of 0 to 7, and we are running on these programs unless you do something to rewire them. Your inner child is there. The same inner child that experienced the love, that experienced the hurt, the betrayal, the confusion, the guilt, the abandonment, the bullying, the everything, every single thing that your inner child has experienced is living in you. So that is how we do that. Now, this technique works. I'm just going to quickly repeat the technique. Create separation from the voice. Ask whose voice this is and speak to yourself like your inner child. Then access that inner child. There's countless inner child meditations. You can even just say to yourself, you know what, this is what we're going to do. This is your soul work today while you're listening to this. I want you to close your eyes, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Create safety around you. If you're driving, please do not do this. If you are driving, come back to this video later, save it. If you are able to, sit down, create a comfortable space. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do this a few times. And I want you to say out loud, I invite my inner child in. They may come up at any age, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, but they will come up. And if they don't come up, I want you to pause this video and keep repeating that until your inner child comes up. Now, I am not able to see, so I mostly feel. When I first started doing this technique, I felt her pain, her sadness, her abandonment, and that's when I knew that she was there. But you might be able to see. You might be able to see your inner child playing. You might be able to see your inner child crying. Whatever it is, invite your inner child in. And I want you to ask your inner child, from whatever age that they present themselves to you, what do you need from me? I just realized this is in the camera and that's probably annoying. What do you need from me right now? And allow your inner child to answer. I go really deep with inner child work on my one-on-one coaching because it has truly changed my life drastically. This inner critic, positive self-talk, inner child healing, like I did a complete 180 with my life. So that's why I'm so passionate on helping others do the same. I'm so grateful to be able to record this video, and if you've made it to the end, drop a comment. Let's see what emoji. Drop a pink heart emoji. I'd love to see who's made it to the end, and also please let me know how you've experienced your harsh inner critic, because it is something that I feel like everybody experiences at least one time in their life, and some people just get so indulged in it, as I did, and it can really control your life. So I would love to know what your inner critic says. Make it known, make it aware, bring awareness to the inner critic of yourself. Love yourself as much as I love you. Mwah.